Good morning, paddlers. This is yet another crap paddling video from Gary at the California Center for Research on Advanced Paddling. And what we're going to be looking at today is finding my most enjoyable stroke for my Zone 2 workouts. Now, one of the things I've discovered is that I like paddling at 60 strokes a minute. So, slower than that feels a little bit sluggish, faster than that a little bit too hurried. So that's what I like. Now, when I am on a bicycle, which I've been cycling for 6 decades now, I guess, all kinds of cycling, recreational, commuting, racing, transcontinental touring, I mean, done it all. You can always, on a multi-speed bike, now with 22 or even more gears, find a gear that gives you whatever cadence that you like at any power output at any speed. Can't do that paddling. Now, there are some ways that you can vary, in a sense, the gear. So I am going to be looking for a gear here that can give me 60 strokes per minute and keep things at an effort level, not looking at speed, not looking at energy efficiency. We can look at that later. I am looking at what gets my heart rate like around 120, 125. That is the most enjoyable. And for me, I know that's a cadence of about 60 strokes a minute. On the bike, if I'm just having fun and going for an easy ride, I like 70, 72 RPM, and I just fiddle with my gears until I get that, no problem. Can't quite do that here. But there are some things I can vary. Obviously, you can vary the size of your paddle, right? The blades. Now these, I'm starting off with the big ones, the 835 square centimeter. I want to make sure that my hands are a little bit inside 90 degrees. I'm looking at my very useful convex mirror for that. Okay, that's like that. And I'm going to start off with using what I'm now calling a power gap of 50%. I used to call that airtime or dynamic gear. I like the idea of power phase. When the blade is in the water, you're applying power. Planes from LAX, hope that doesn't disrupt the audio too much. And the power gap is airtime, when there's a gap in power. That gap does not exist on the bicycle. It must exist paddling on the water, because you got to get your blade out of the water for the next one. So I am going to start off right now at 60 strokes a minute. I'm going to crank up my metronome a little bit. And I'm going to start off with a relatively large power gap of 50%. How do I do that? I am, a stroke cycle you can see as catch of one blade to the catch of the other, right? 60 of those a minute. I instead use the release of one blade to the release of the next, okay? So what I'm doing is synchronizing my blade releases, exits, with the metronome. And I'll know that's 60 strokes a minute. Now, how do I know what my gap is, my power gap? I divide that beat into 2, into eighth notes or quavers in British English, and get it in on the 2. 1, 2, 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 2, 1, 2. Here I go. And I'm watching my heart rate. It's up to 114 already. 116. And I'm careful to take it out on the 1. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Catch on the 2. I can feel it come out on the 1 because the pressure is released. And I can see it going in on the 2, right in front of me. 119. 121. 126. Now this is sort of where I want to be. So I'm going to get my heart rate a chance to move up into steady state. 125, 126, 127. Starting to breathe. 127. 128. This is getting a little tough for me now. 130. 133. Okay, now I'm going to make a switch. 1, 2, 3, 1. 134 went up too high. 1, 2, 3. Now, by dividing the stroke into 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 1, 2. And this is actually at 28, 25 or so. I switched. Come down to 132. Actually, that's not right. I wanted to do 25% gap. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. And that's where I am now at 2049. Now I can feel much less force needed. I'm going to see if I can get the pulse to come down. One 30. 129. 128. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. 127. 126. See if I can get it down on 125. Line 25, briefly. 125, maybe 124. I think I'm going to have to be happy with 125. 124. So now, what I've shown is that paddling at 60 strokes a minute with the big blade, the 835 Braca 1192 Van Dusen, why did that start again, is too much for me at a power gap of 50%. That means at 60 strokes a minute, right, That means half a second is power phase, half a second is power gap, where there's no power, okay? And when that happens, I need to accelerate more. I need to apply more force to the blade to maintain that 60 strokes per minute. And then, so that went up to like past 130. When they switched to a power gap of just 25%, which means 3/4 of the time I am putting in power, and only 1/4 at 60 strokes per minute, that gets me right where I want to be. And I can paddle at 60 strokes a minute that way, but really, and get my zone 2 target of heart rate, but I am doing that with a blade that would normally be considered much too big for anybody. Not to even think of a 72-year-old who started paddling in his mid-60s, right? So I like the feeling of this snappy power gap. Mind the gap. You see, it says that on my boat now. And effectively, I am reducing the size of the blade, and I actually have some numbers here about that. So if I consider the 50% power phase, 50% power gap as sort of the standard, so these are 835 square centimeters. When I go down to a power gap of only 1/4 second, 25%, that's equivalent to blades of 560 square centimeters. They're actually smaller than my Jantex Baby Gama with the 600. So what I'm going to do now, because I want to maintain this 60 strokes a minute, this is my fun stroke, enjoyable. I can do this forever. When I first started, even a power gap of just 33% felt like a bit of a rushed recovery, but now the quarter is 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And now it feels natural, and I think I'm getting a decent catch and other good things. Okay, so let's go back and let's see what happens if I try to do this with my Baby Gama with 600 square centimeters. So this is 29% more than that, so that's going to be considerably less surface area on that blade. So we'll see how that works out. Okay, now here I am back with my Baby Gama, Jantex Gama, just 600 square centimeter blades. The Braca XI are 29% larger, and I'm going to paddle it still at 60 strokes per minute. But what I'm going to do is start off with the power gap of 25% instead. So it'll make the blades feel even smaller, and see what that does to my heart rate. And I suspect I'll be below 120, and then I will go to the 50% gap and see how high I can get my heart, still keeping 60 strokes a minute. Okay, so I'm going to make the turn here at the interceptor. Going to keep my stroke length the same. And my hand with about the same, elbows just inside 90 degrees. Okay, let's go again here. 25% power gap. Using 16th notes, semi-quavers, I think that is in British English. Okay, get the cadence first. Now get the timing. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Wow, this is so easy. 109. 110. 111. 112. 113. 112. 111. 111. 112. 111 again. So that's where I am basically. 600 square centimeters, 60 strokes a minute, with a power gap of just 25%, quarter of a second. Okay, one. Now I'm going to switch over at 45. Let's say make this 46 in the activity. 1, 2, 1, 1. Now I'm at 50% power gap. 1, 2, same cadence. 114. 115. 116. 117. 118. 117. 118. 119. That heart rate will tend to drift up anyway over time. But it's pretty clear I'm not going to get this to 125. Went down to 117 again, 117. Now what I could do is make the power gap even longer. So I'm going to go back to triplets and go in on 3. That'll give me a power gap of 67%. Okay? 1, 1, 2, 3. Okay, this is tricky though. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 120. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 3, 1, 2, 122. 123, 125, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 127. So I can shut that off. I can get my heart rate up so to my 125 if I really have a long power gap of 2/3, 67%. That is not fun. I'm getting it in 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. At 60, not fun. I have to move the blade really fast through the water. Should be less efficient, and my technique should go to hell too, whatever technique I have. So, I think that's pretty interesting. It's in line with expectations. It's in line with the laws of physics. The notion is that certainly changing your blade size is going to have an effect on the gear and how much effort it's going to take to paddle at a certain fixed cadence. I'm using 60 strokes a minute. So that's one big thing. But within any one blade, without changing anything else, not changing the length of the blade, where you're putting your hands, at the same 60 strokes per minute, just varying the timing, varying your power phase and your power gap can make a difference in the gear. And for me, I could not get this one up to 125 heart rate paddling 60 strokes a minute if I was using it at even 50% power gap. That's the highest gear I would reasonably want to use with this. I don't want to use a 67% power gap. I mean, that's just no fun. On the other hand, on the Braca 835, I can paddle at 1/3 power gap, 33%, third of a second in the air, and 2/3 in the water, or 1/4 quarter, 25%, and 60 strokes per minute and get my heart rate right where I want it, and I like the 60 strokes per minute. So I think that's kind of interesting, and the lesson is, mind the gap. You have the ability to change the perceived size of your blade just by adjusting your timing and minding the gap, getting the gap down lower. 1, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, as opposed to 1, 2, 1, 2, 2, 1, 2. That has influence on how much force you have to put on the blade for each stroke, how much you will put to get the blade out during that water time, and it will give you a way of doing that without changing your stroke rate, your cadence. So it makes it a little bit more like a bicycle. The bike, I clip the lever or push the button if I have electronic shifting now, and I can instantly go to one of 22 gears or so, or 24 gears, or even more. I can't quite do that here, but I do have a fairly large difference between 50%, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And if I want to lighten that up, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4. And because it gives me more time in the water, I think other good things come from that. With respect to efficiency, how much work you do, how much power you need to go at a certain speed, but we will look at that in other videos. Okay, hope you find this interesting and perhaps motivate you to try a bigger blade for at least your easier Zone 2 paddles, which for me are probably 80-85% of all the paddling I do, probably more than that, for metabolic health and just for sheer joy. And I am about to go out now into the ocean, get out of the creek, which is great for testing stuff, and who knows, see some dolphins, maybe even a whale, seabirds, get my vitamin C, as Boyan says, and you can be sure that I'm not going to be using this paddle because I can't really easily hit my Zone 2 without really adding a lot of power gap to my stroke, which I do not enjoy. Or I could just increase my cadence to 70, 75, and I don't like that much either. Okay, so there you have it, finding the gears for your paddling that you might not have known that you have if you can use this rhythm method to vary the timing of your stroke, varying the ratio of the power gap to the power phase. Okay, until next time, this is Gary signing off with yet another crap paddling video from beautiful Bayona Creek here in Playa del Rey, Los Angeles, California.